After much time and several persecutions in the 2nd and early 3rd centuries, the sky beast over the sea and the numeral of 666 in Revelation chapter 13, verses 1 through 18, began to be associated with the name Caesar Nero. This recontextualization happened because these details in the book of Revelation had been thoroughly seasoned by later persecution experiences. Therefore, Nero Caesar, remembered as the first emperor to persecute Christians, became the beast. The result was that the original astral meaning of 666 had been lost. But neither John the Seer nor his compiler were thinking about Emperor Nero or Rome. Originally, the mark or tattoo of Revelation chapter 13 consisted of the name or the numeral of the sea beast in the sky. And remember, these visions depicted events way before Nero had been born, long before the Roman Empire had come about, even before the mythical flood of Genesis. Many rightly explain that the name of Nero Caesar, when spelled out in Aramaic, does equal 666. Living today in a 21st century English-speaking Western country, literate Americans have the luxury of choosing from ancient spare alphabets to act as our own numerals. But first century Mediterraneans weren't so lucky. They didn't have spare alphabets lying around. So whatever Mediterranean language they spoke, letters of their own alphabet had to double work, serving as their own number system. This means that any word or name spelled out could also be seen as a mathematical sum, a set of numerals. That means that every word and every name equaled a numerical value. And that is what is going on with the passage that we are looking at in the book of Revelation. We are told that 666 is a name. Christians reading that in the 5th century, through a historical lens that saw Nero as the first emperor who persecuted the faithful, also recalled that his name equaled 666 in Aramaic letters forming the Hebrew alphabet. Caesar Nero, or Caesar Neron, looks like this. And if you add up the numerical values of all these letters, what do you get? 666. Nero is the beast. Except that he wasn't, really. Nero did not live before the flood. Remember that everything in Revelation chapter 12 through chapter 16 took place in antediluvian times, before the flood, before Noah. Besides that, Nero was a human being. He was not a colossal sky entity, a gigantic constellation ascending over the sea. Nero is not Cetus, the sea monster. He was nothing like the celestial beast. Also, stop for a moment and try to imagine people tattooing onto their foreheads or hands all those letters. That takes up too much room. And what sense would that make to a mostly illiterate public? But what if there is a more reasonable meaning to 666? Following context group scholars Bruce Molina and John Pilch, how about we look in the sky for the meaning of 666? Perhaps, as Molina and Pilch point out, 666 has an astronomical equivalence. Maybe it could be a constellation, like so many other things in the book of Revelation. But wait a minute, what about John the Seer saying that the numeral 666 was a human numeral? Okay, that's fine, but don't think that being a human numeral means that 666 stands for a human being. It could mean instead that the numeral is knowable to humans. How so? Well, it's because in henotheistic Israel, other gods were under the supreme God, and thus their names or numbers were knowable to human beings. Again, recall that most ancient people were illiterate. Tattooing all those letters of Caesar Neron onto their heads or hands therefore wouldn't make too much sense to these people. Because of widespread illiteracy, the mark or brand John refers to must have been an icon. This is just like the people marked by an X in Ezekiel chapter 9, verses 3 through 6, or the others branded by an ivy leaf in 3 Maccabees chapter 2, verse 29. So too, 666 in context is iconic, an image. Here in Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 to 18, the mark is very likely a triangle, the Greek letter delta. For ancient astronomers, study of numerals was basic. Therefore, people often refer to astronomers as mathematicians. Hence, Theon of Smyrna, writing in the 2nd century Common Era, divided his mathematical treatise into 3 parts: arithmetic, music, and astronomy. Reading Theon, it's not too difficult to see how he rates numerals. Some he gives the quality as odd, others even. Some Theon calls composite, others oblong, others triangular, or square, or circular, or spherical, and so on. Studying later Islamic and Gothic architecture, you can see how this traditional qualifying of numbers provided their foundations. 666 is a triangular numeral. If you were to add all the numbers from 1 to 36, the sum you would get would be 666. Situated above the cosmic Lamb of God Aries is the constellation Deltoton, or in Latin Triangulum. Phoenicians reverenced their sacred pyramidal monoliths. They reverenced this constellation. The plain triangle stood for Zeus among Hellenic peoples. In either case, to Israelites like John, the constellation of the triangle would signify idolatry. The numeral of the triangle is human because it misses the highest god in place of a humanly constructed deity. As Pilcha Molina explained, the Phoenician name of Deltoton is Shulash. This Phoenician name adds up to 666. Beyond that, there is also a Hebrew word for earthworm, creeping dragon, or crawling beast, as well as diarrhea, shilshul, that likewise adds up to 666. So the literal sense of 666 is really just a triangle in the sky. Imagine the irony when the campaign team for President Donald Trump chose the upside-down triangle as a symbol for their ads. Given the hordes of American evangelicals who worship Trump, combined with their ignorant, fanatical obsessions with the book of Revelation, one might chuckle if these weren't such dark, dangerous times. But regardless of dark triangles, whether astronomical or earthbound, neither POTUS Trump nor any other 21st century person was written about in the book of Revelation. That also includes you and I, folks. The Bible was written by, for, and about ancient Israelites, not 21st century persons of whatever variety.